Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're addressing the housing issue in New York, particularly in the Mid-Hudson Valley region. Amanda Rhodes and myself will explore the housing crisis in New York being felt by so many. It is no longer just an issue of shelter. It's influencing economic instability, public health, and fracturing our social fabric. Access to secure and affordable housing is both a policy issue and a profound financial determinant for a growing number of New Yorkers. Our project looks at some history of affordable housing, current housing supports in place, the gaps in those supports, and our solution to help address some of those gaps. Our mission is to develop a 501c3 nonprofit organization to breathe new life into neglected buildings in our community, creating affordable, functional spaces for nonprofits to thrive and serve their communities. This is to fulfill our vision of a future where neglected buildings are reborn as affordable and functional homes for nonprofits to grow and collaborate and uplift our communities. We've identified a substantial need for affordable housing for people in our community. There's a distinct lack of affordable or obtainable housing for many. Rents have skyrocketed in recent years and are outpricing those very people who are the lifeblood of our community. In our professional life, we have seen an increased difficulty in finding community housing for the IDD community, seeking housing when their benefits exceed current low-income housing specifications, but do not meet the leasing needs of the expected 3 times the monthly rent that the community is paying. This problem is now common for many. I've moved children home because of this. Amanda routinely volunteers with Habitat for Humanity to help address this as well. This guided us on our journey to a 501c3 that will help to address some of these concerns in our area. Amanda will provide an overview of the history of affordable housing legislation and supports while defining poverty, cost burden, migration, homelessness, housing quality, and community impact. She further explores the need for affordable housing and to improve neglected and abandoned structures within our community. Affordable housing is needed to improve our communities and strengthen our workforce through retention. We are losing many good New Yorkers to surrounding states because they no longer can afford to live here, as rent prices them out of their own neighborhoods. We examine existing housing supports and the gaps that still exist to address a fleeing workforce, providing stable housing to our most vulnerable citizens and the people that support them through adaptive reuse of defunct properties within our community. Our plan is to provide affordable housing units by renovating properties into safe and affordable structures for the nonprofit agencies in our area, who can in turn provide units to New Yorkers in need of affordable, safe, and reliable housing. Workers sorely needed in the nonprofit field would also benefit from safe and affordable housing to help retain this critical workforce. This also benefits our community by improving the appearance of structures in need of repair, which is also improving our communities. Amanda is going to delve into our why.
Thanks, Darby. The first thing that we're going to review is the historical timeline, which will give us a deeper understanding of the data and the problem. Part of Truman's New Deal in 1949 was to remove slums and make it into affordable housing. This pushed out the population in the slums with no safety net or plan for them. These residents were predominantly African American and Irish immigrants. This was the first time we see redlining, which was not addressed until 1965, creation of Housing and Urban Development, which we now know as HUD, and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. The first zoning law was enacted in 1916 in New York. And we are still seeing the discrimination today. Even today, AI is quote unquote helping realtors perpetuate this by screening applicants using AI, which is, as we know, AI does have a bias, which is a conversation and a training for another day. New York State is the 13th most impoverished state, which we will see more information in the upcoming slides. Regions in New York State range from 5% to 24% impoverished. Cost burden prior to 1981 was 25% and increased to 30% in a cost-saving measure for residents receiving subsidies. Currently, the cost burden, which we will see in the graphic in upcoming slides, is 38.9% of residents are cost burdened. 20% of residents are severely cost burdened. In 2022, the minimum wage was $15.50 an hour, which would make a two-bedroom needing, a resident to work 105 hours in order to make the monthly payments on a two-bedroom apartment. Or they would need to make $46.03 per hour for a 40-hour work week. 2022 data collected also shows a third of residents migrated to neighboring states, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. And upon migration, homeowners save 35% of their the cost of living. Renters save 19%. In New York State, homelessness is an issue. If residents are homeless, inability to access medical providers, there's a lack of medication storage, and there's a big stigma around housing. In the next couple of slides, we're going to look at some data. On this slide, we see the U.S. Census data trending poverty rate over a 10-year period for the U.S. New York State and Dutchess County, which is our target county, and as noted in this slide, there has been a steady decline in poverty rates over the 10-year period noted. New York State is still higher than the national average. On this slide, we see there is quite the variance in poverty rates by county. Our target county is Dutchess, with a poverty rate of 8.3%. Although this is not trending higher than the national average, New York State is higher than the national average. On this slide, we're going to discuss cost burden by region. The Mid-Hudson region, which is the second highest cost burden region in New York State, consists of Dutchess, which is our target county for our startup, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, and Ulster and Westchester. Now I think it's time to address housing quality. Existing dwellings for low income are not always kept up to code. There is not much incentive to landlords to maintain properties when income from properties is low. Physical barriers continue to be an issue due to the age of the dwellings and not being able to retrofit or accommodate people to age in place. Older buildings that were built before the 80s, lead paint is prevalent, as well as lead in pipes. Some other issues that we see are pests and poor air quality, which can lead to asthma and other poor health outcomes. We also see overcrowding, which makes disease and infections more prevalent. The lack of consistent housing decreases the ability for medical follow-up and medication storage, which was mentioned in a previous slide. Also, for children, poor educational outcomes. With the lack of affordability in the area, there is an increase in the number of abandoned buildings from foreclosures and evictions. Overcrowding is occurring because of the lack of affordability. In the next 10 years, the New York Housing Compact Corporation estimates 1.2 million jobs will be created in New York State, which there will be an 800,000 housing unit need to meet this demand. Next up is the gaps that Darby will be presenting.
Thanks, Amanda. In 2024, there were 1 million plus New Yorkers benefiting from subsidized housing programs. Housing Choice Vouchers, also known as Section 8, is the largest rental assistance program in the country. It's federally subsidized and accessed through HUD. Locally, these vouchers support over 5,000 of our neighbors. To qualify, one must be very low-income families, seniors, or individuals with disabilities. It covers up to 70% of the monthly rent cost and provides tenants a choice in where they live. However, tenants are still required to pay roughly 30% of the rent. There are very long wait lists, often years before a voucher becomes available. Local wait lists are often closed, sometimes for decades. The Capstone website warns applicants to please note that all counties have extensive waiting lists and it could be several years before vouchers become available. And not all landlords accept the vouchers. There is substantial demand for this subsidy with limited vouchers available. Only 1 in 4 households in need and income eligible is eligible to receive this assistance. In many areas, the application is only available periodically and for a very short period of time. The City of Poughkeepsie waitlist was open only 9 days in January of this year, and applications had to be picked up in person only during specific times. Project-based rental assistance, government funded, provides support for 1.2 million households nationally and is reserved for very low-income households. Public housing provides support to 884 individuals in Dutchess County with rental units that are managed on a county or city level by the local public housing agency. There are many drawbacks to this housing assistance, though, with 2 to 5 year waiting lists for that public housing, making this as difficult to obtain as the Housing Choice Voucher. An increase in crime is historically linked to public housing, and units are often very poorly maintained and may not meet the basic building codes. Oversight and accountability can be problematic and result in rent issues or even evictions. Housing Access Voucher Program, HAVP, is a pilot program that was established in 2025 as a 4-year pilot program. The target demographic is homeless or at risk of homelessness persons with a goal of reducing shelter utilization. It's a relatively new program and data is lacking currently. The access to this program is through the local Department of Family and Child Services, DCFS. The program is state funded and cannot travel out of the state. To travel within the state, a consistent residence needs to be held for the first year of receipt. HAVP may be a lack of landlord participation or continued lack of affordable housing, as landlords may prefer fair market value units as more profitable. As this is a short-term pilot program, its success and longevity are still unknown. ERAP was a temporary rental assistance program made necessary during the pandemic. It's now closed effective November 2025 after years of funding cuts. Newly proposed legislation, Let Them Build, aims to use common sense reforms to State Environmental Quality Review Act to speed up the building of zoned and permitting housing while preserving environmental safeguards by cutting out delays in building by reducing current red tape issues. Governor Hochul's landmark reform seeks to lower the cost associated with builds by expediting critical categories of projects that have been proven to have no negative impacts on the environment. The full benefits or drawbacks of let them build is unknown at this time. Congress increased HUD funding to $77.3 billion with a B for fiscal year 2026, despite the proposed 13% reduction by the Trump administration. Community development programs are fully eliminated in the president's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. And while fair housing is unaffected in the current 2026 budget, despite the attempts to decrease it by $60 million by this administration, it is proposed to be fully eliminated in the fiscal year 2027 proposal. This will negatively impact housing support in all states. Several other federal housing programs exist, though typically with lower subsidies. While these programs offer units which are more affordable than others in the area, they are still out of reach for extremely low-income people or are only available to select populations, such as the OPWDD housing voucher grant for persons with intellectual disabilities. All of these programs have a stigmatization associated with them. Many locals fight having quote unquote those units available in their areas. So there are a lot of barriers to all of these options out there for folks in New York State. Next up, we have Amanda, and she is going to talk about our project, Uplift Renovations.
Thanks, Darby. Uplift Renovations, Inc. will be assisting other nonprofits to create affordable housing for their staff. By offering affordable housing, it will directly lead to job retention as well as an increase in productivity. Additionally, it helps to break the cycle of poverty, improving physical health and emotional well-being, increases community development, and expands access to housing. Providing housing closer to employment assists employees without ready access to personal or community transportation. Increased employment decreases community crime levels, making the community more desirable for growth. For a visual reference of the first property that we have selected, it is the 3 lots are highlighted in yellow. As you can see, the properties are sandwiched between 2 roads, allowing more latitude with how we renovate these properties. Adjacent to the lots is the rail trail. A short distance walk up Route 376 will allow access to the village, where there are banks, 2 grocery stores, several eateries, a library, 2 churches, and a bus stop for the community bus loop system. As you can see, there are many steps in creating the 501c3. These include articles of incorporation, board of directors, staffing, and job descriptions. When we're looking at board of directors and staffing and job descriptions, we're looking to really focus on value-based hiring and board selection. Bylaws, our mission statement, which is on a previous slide, and our vision statement. A logo, company name, which is incredibly important, and company name that you know exactly the purpose of the company. A cost spreadsheet, locating, identifying, building partner relationships, and creating volunteer opportunities within the community.
Thanks, Amanda. So to reiterate, our mission with Uplift Renovations, Inc. is to breathe new life into neglected buildings in our community, creating affordable, functional spaces for nonprofits to thrive and serve their communities. This picture depicts what our initial build looks like and what it can become once it's renovated and ready to turn over to a not-for-profit in our community. Thank you for coming to our presentation today. We hope you enjoyed it and look to support Uplift Renovations in the future to support our neighborhoods.